I am Ezra Lee, and I am an entrepreneur. I've got a couple of businesses, mostly in the world of real estate. I run a design and build firm, and just recently opened a furniture store. And yeah, I got a bunch of other things going on.
I want you to take one more stab at it, actually.
One more stab at it?
Yeah. Yeah. I want you to look in there
Uh-huh.
like the badass motherfucker that you are. Yeah.
I am Ezra Lee, and I'm a badass.
So I believe we've known each other for 8 or 9 years now.
8 years, 6 months, 22 days.
Sure.
Just kidding.
And one of the first things that we did together in a meaningful way was actually the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And I feel like we bonded on that
Uh-huh.
trip, and I feel like you've just been a dear friend ever since, after
Amen.
canyoneering and jumping off crazy stuff and
Yeah.
having a good time. And I've shared this with you, but I was almost like embarrassed to have you go through Disruptive University, because I'm like, but I know you and I look up to you, so why would you want to take and go through Disruptive University?
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that would be my first question for you.
Oh, are you kidding? It would be my response. And I'm saying that because, like I told you in one of the classes that we have, I've looked up to you as someone that has done more with personal and professional growth since I've known you in those 8 years, 6 months, and 22 days than anybody else that I've ever been around. And it's something that, you've talked about mirrors, and we talk about that I think that there is a mirror in you for me, and maybe I for you, that I think that has been a wonderful catalyst for maybe both of us to push and to progress and to not get complacency. I think is so dangerous, and in the course, it's like, I kept finding that being like one of the results is like, what is the payoff for this? And it's like, well, the payoff would have been if, because I feel like I'm doing really well in a lot of things in life, but I can think back to another path that I easily could have gone down to just be complacent. And I just don't like it, nor do you, and in the things that you do. And I was talking with Ashley just even a short time ago about, you may not remember, but when we were at the Stein Erickson at Deer Valley doing a corporate alliance event, I think. And I brought my workout clothes. It was like a weekend thing, and we were chatting the night before. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work out in the morning. You want to work out? And you're like, well, I don't even have workout clothes. But sure, I guess I'll meet you at the gym. And you showed up at the gym, and you had like the same loafers you had on with your slacks at the dinner the night before. And I remember thinking, yeah, Jake's just not an exercise guy. He's just not like a workout guy. And that was in the time frame that I've known you. And since then, the feats that you have accomplished physically are unbelievable for anyone, let alone someone that I would say that I knew 8 years ago that was just, he's not an exercise guy. He's not a workout guy.
I was quite a bit bigger at that time.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for being kind in the way you described that.
But I have seen that in you. And I think I told you when we were talking about me going through the courses, I was like, dude, I feel like you are going on this path, and I want to be right alongside you and learn from you. And maybe it's learn together on it, but that's what I wanted. I didn't want this to keep going in a direction that, I didn't feel in tune with and attuned with. So I wanted to stay on the Jake journey. Yeah. I wanted to stay on the ride.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why is it so uncomfortable for you to be, what is it about complacency that, I picked up on 2 tones there.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a natural desire for it.
Mm-hmm.
And second is like, but no,
Mm-hmm.
like that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit more about that.
I would completely agree with it being a natural desire. And I would also say that that's not just me.
Totally.
I would say that it's 100% human nature to just like want to like find the easy path, be complacent is, maybe a negative word to it, but just be safe.
Yeah.
Just to be protected, to be the opposite of the word vulnerable, because I know what's happening tomorrow and I know what's happening the next day. So I'm good. and that is comfortable. And that's like, I sleep well at night thinking of that, but so I would say that, yeah, that's attractive for I would say everyone, including myself. But what I've done in life is then I just look at that and go, yeah, I like it for tomorrow and I like it for the next day. But I start not liking it a month down the road and 3 months down the road. And then I start to hate it 6 months down the road. In 3 years from now, if I'm still doing this exact same thing, I want to like call it quits.
Yep.
So then it gets to be a very good understanding of how do I feel complacency? It's not exciting. Sure, it might be safe, but it's not a journey. It's just a.
You know, I've claimed credit for it, but I probably wasn't even the one that said it. But in our group, we often say it's not an adventure until you don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I hear you describing is I actually think it's okay to have moments of comfort, downtime, restful periods of our lives. But there's a point in which it's like it's time to go on the adventure again.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear maybe a couple past times where you've realized that was the case and you went for it. And I know you're also in the middle of that right now as well. So I'll be interested to explore that with you as well.
Okay.
So I'll give you the dealer's choice. Which one do you want to start with?
You know, I'm going to do personal because I didn't really even talk about it in like the whole, in all the modules.
Yeah.
But the sailing, in my family sailing, in us partnering on a sailboat and spending time sailing. And I think back on it now, which is like the fondest of memories, but it was freaking hard. Like there were so many times in it where, and you know this because I've shared it with groups, it was just, if I had an eject button, I would have just hit that eject button a million times because it was doing things that were not comfortable at all. Whether that's open ocean sailing with harsh weather and waves, or if it was fixing the generator on the boat, or like messing with the diesel engine, or doing something that's just like, I don't do this type of stuff anymore. You know, I just take the car to the shop and let the mechanics do it, and forced into situations that were completely and totally outside of my comfort zone. But I saw my sister and her family doing it. And I saw what it was doing to them as a family and bringing them together. And I said, I want that. So that's what I signed up for. That's what got me excited about that journey. But the reality of it is that journey was, I would say the majority of the time was not fun. And it was not comfortable. And it was not awesome. There were times that were horrifying and miserable. And then there was the other end of that spectrum, that there were times that were just like absolutely Graham-worthy and just magnificent, and just a luxurious life of like amazement that we were living. And it came in the whole package and the whole spectrum. So that was like heeding a journey's call and just making the commitment, going all in on it. And we've sailed now over 3,000 miles as a young family across all of French Polynesia, around the Azuero Peninsula, and have all of the stories to back it up. That's just amazing.
Receipts. Yeah. Well, I love that because, you know, as an entrepreneur, this was a call to adventure that wasn't for a business.
Yes.
This was with the family.
Yes.
And like, I get nervous even just thinking about you going on that adventure, because that's...
I get nervous thinking about going again.
Yeah. What do you feel like was that tipping point where you're like, you kind of felt called to it, but it would have been easy to say no? What was you're like, screw it, let's go?
It was when I was thinking of my three boys. Max, Sawyer, and Zeke. So this was almost 2 years ago that we committed. So they're 14, 12, and 9 now. So they would have been, 12, 10, and 7. And I was talking with Ashley, and I was just saying, I am worried about the luxurious lifestyle that we have provided for our boys, which is, if you kind of just like break that down, it's interesting. I've worked my ass off to run a successful company, to provide for my family, which I'm very proud of. But then on the opposite side of that, all of a sudden becomes this like, I love a good life. I don't want to mow the lawn. I don't want to change my oil. I don't want to do all these things because I'm running the business and I can afford to pay people to do those things. And we have cleaners come through the house, and we're enjoying a life of like that I've earned by hard work.
Yep.
And the result of that was showing my boys that they shouldn't work hard. or that they don't need to work hard. They don't need to clean up because we're going to have the cleaners come through and clean up.
Mhm.
They don't need to really work for things because I don't want to do the yard work. I'm going to have somebody else do the yard work. Like they see me just opt to just pay for things. And it made me realize like we have to challenge ourselves, and I need to find an opportunity that I can jump in on a challenge with them so that we can learn that hard work together. And we
Yeah.
can realize like, hey, we can grind on things together and just figure it out as a family. And that's what it was. It was me looking down that, like the complacency future of, or the comfortable future that we had lined out for our family and for our boys going forward. And I started to see a future down the road that was like, I don't like that. I don't like that there's not enough challenge that I can see in the forecasted future. So we had to architect that challenge by committing to partnering on a sailboat and learn how to sail.
I love that. I almost find myself, I feel like there's a value in there that you learned in a powerful way. And what is that value that you see in yourself that you're hoping makes it through to your kids as well? Something about work or
the first thing that comes to mind is commitment. It's the commitment and the courage, and the combination of the two. That's just like anything that's worth doing is worth doing well. But anything that is like really going to teach us is going to be something that we're not familiar with. For us to learn new things, we have to find that courage to like really step out of our comfort zone and push ourselves.
Yeah. I love just the unorthodox approach to that, because you're saying, I want to teach my kids to do hard things because it's going to give them a better life.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I want to teach them that through some of the things I'm not that interested in doing anymore.
Yeah.
So, but this is something that would challenge me.
Yeah.
And I can show up and lead by example. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. Huh. Any other thoughts on that?
No, other than I wish that's where it stopped in the last 2 years, where it's like where I've had to dig deep to find courage and make commitments. I kind of wish that's where it stopped on the personal side, and just like we as a family, we learned how to sail, but it didn't stop there for me, and it's like in business and these other ventures, which I think was kind of your other question of like, with business and making those commitments, I decided to go all in on it, and it is heavy and it's a lot. And, our conversations over the years have given me that confidence and understanding and that future painted picture vision of myself, of who I want to be and how I want to act and what does that look like. And I realized that the path that I was on was forecasted out to yet again yield the professional outcome that I wasn't looking for. Sure, I was excited about it, and I love what I do, and I would say more than the majority of people can say that I love my profession and I love what I do, but there wasn't enough opportunity for me to create in a truly creative way and in an entrepreneurial way that I had to just go after it. I had to just make the decision to just do it. And I've put things in motion that are overwhelming at times, but absolutely challenging and encouraging and exciting at the same time.
So if I maybe fill in a little bit of context there.
Yeah.
You have an envious design and build company that's successful, that you love, that's starting to feel a little comfortable.
That sounds great.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, damn it, I'm feeling this call to adventure. So you're doing some of that with your family.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like you're feeling some of that call to adventure with businesses as well. And so talk to me a little bit more about the adventure that you're on there.
I put my name in the company. I run a design and build firm, and the name of it is Ezra Lee Design and Build. And my name is Ezra Lee. And at one point in time, that seemed like a great idea, especially when my old neighbor, Rich Goad, stud of a guy, came up with our logo that we still use today, that I think is just a really strong logo. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I love it. I absolutely love it. But what I battle now and the journey that I was on is I really felt this overwhelming, imagine somebody patting me on my head saying, Ezra, stay in your lane. You're a designer and you're a builder. You run a design and build firm. That's right where you need to be. And, and as I chased that through doing a lot of the things that we went through in the Authenticity Wins course was just identifying like those emotions and being aware of the emotions. But then when I got down to like being honest with myself and really understanding where all that came from, it was self-imposed. It was this visual that I had, and I thought the judgment that was out there on me was like, Ezra, stay in your lane. But really that voice in that comment was just me doing it to myself because of who knows? It was self-imposed. So it gave me the ability to break it down, though. Once I got to the root of it and being honest with it, that then gave me the ability to like start to say, okay, well, if it is self-imposed, if other people don't think that, then what is it that I truly want to do? And at the end of it was I had ideas of businesses and opportunities that I wanted to do, that I wanted to just explore, and I love designing and I love building. In the world of architecture and high-end custom homes and commercial spaces, all of it, but I also have it in businesses. I want to be able to design and build businesses and create something amazing. So, chase this back a couple years ago, when I finally ejected that thought of like, okay, Ezra Lee doesn't need to stay in Ezra Lee Design and Build. Ezra Lee is a person, and Ezra Lee Design and Build can be what it is as a company over here, and Ezra Lee, the person, can sit somewhere totally, somewhere else, but be involved and then work on and build these other companies. And instead of, what may have been the recommended version of that future of like working on some companies, to pick the front runner and go with it, I decided to make a list of all of them that I was looking at doing and give the shotgun approach and go on all of them. So it has been a pretty awesome journey in the last year and a half, from when we were in Texas and I kind of said, hey, here's the Ezra Lee division of companies and here's what this is going to look like and here it is going forward. And I am deep in the throes of it, of building and developing those companies. One of them is a furniture store that I absolutely love. And genuinely, I think it is probably going to fail. And I almost had a panic attack, like a full-on panic attack. It was like 3 days before the store opens. And I remember telling myself, like, now is not the right time for a panic attack. This should have happened a year ago, when you could have pulled the plug on this thing. But why are you waiting until like the last minute? It's about ready to open, and now you're going to have a panic attack? And I remember when I like really kind of broke it down and like chased like the feelings, and like my body is about ready to shut down. And then what got me to like break out of it was the thought of, if I would have never tried, how would have I felt? And I knew that I would have been safe. And in that moment, I probably would have been watching something on Netflix because it was in the evening. And I would have been like, well, I wouldn't have to be doing this, this, and this to get ready for the store opening. So I'd have been just chilling. And then I realized that I'm okay if I fail at this. All I really want to know in this life is that I tried, is that I did my best. So that's the first one. It's been open now for 4 months, and it's like, it's having glimpses of successful opportunities. We've got a big name designer, Corey Damon Jenkins, that's coming into town next week that we'll be doing some promotional pieces with and a book signing with him. So it's giving me a lot of opportunity to understand market absorption, to understand sales philosophy, online sales, marketing in a different way than with my design and build firm. I deal with really high net worth individuals and a few projects a year are going to build our revenue base for the year. But in that, they have such a huge swing of success or not in a handful of projects, where this is going to be totally different, where it allows me to pick up more of a market base and to see if we can do volume on it. That's really exciting.
Well, I did order a bedroom set.
Thank you.
So
Hugh and Hem appreciates your business.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. Your team's been great to work with.
Yeah. I think you're going to love it.
They made it easy, and I'm like, sweet. This is fantastic. So it'll be fun to see how that goes. But the question that I find myself asking with all of that, so thank you for sharing, is what does 80-year-old Ezra say to everything you're adventuring right now?
Sure. Just 2 words. Keep going. That's it.
And what does that mean to you?
I love it. I love it because I think there's so much opportunity to second guess, to I don't know, pile on, like do all sorts of different things. Like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should be. It's like, but all the things that I have that I'm working on right now, and I just keep telling myself, and as I think to the 80-year-old version of myself, is keep going, because I do feel like I'm on the right path. I feel like there's a lot of really wonderful things that I'm approaching, that I'm just about to knock on the door for, that I just need to just lean into it and just keep going. And I'm really excited about it.
It just reminds me of there's so many different sayings, but when I hear you say keep going, it's just love the journey, right? There is no magical destination. You're already in the thing you're looking for, which is a life of adventure, exploring, successes, failures.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Just soak it in, man. You're selling around the world, starting different businesses, have an awesome design and build company. And it's like, and all the feels that come with it, you know?
All of them.
All of them. So how do you balance that with the time, space, and recovery that you need? Because I think that's something that is always a bit of a challenge as an entrepreneur, is how do you reset, how do you recenter, and how do you keep that cup full so you don't burn out?
First of all, I'd say that 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I would never have been able to do all the things that I'm trying to do now. And I would say that's a combination of a handful of things. The leadership team that I have now in my company that I think does a wonderful job at helping me manage and run everything. So huge credit and props to them. But also, I would say the mental and emotional awareness that I've learned as I've been on this journey with you over the years, to be able to understand how and where to put the limited amount of energy that I have on a daily basis. And that has become even more so apparent as I've been doing all these things, the importance of efficient use of my time and a very focused and intentional use of my time and where I'm at. And that can be physically, or it could be digitally on Zoom, or it could be in emails or text. It could be light touches too, that I understand now that really light touches at the right time can go a very long way, where if that light touch is missed, then it could create potential negative outcomes. So understanding when and where to be involved has absolutely been a challenge, but it's something that I feel that I do well. I absolutely love physical exercise. I love a great trail run. I love getting on the Peloton. I love gym workouts. So and that's something that I know needs to happen early in the morning for me to have a successful day. Win the morning, win the day, win the week. So it's just committing to those, what were big commitments for me years back, that started with just the smallest of commitments, that I'm just going to do this tomorrow. I'm just going to do a small little workout tomorrow, have become ingrained in me to the point to where I absolutely crave them. If my body hasn't done enough, it is telling me you need to get outside and do something, and I need to run it to the point of exhaustion. And then it says, thank you. I appreciate that's exactly what I needed. So, but in that exercise, I get energy from it, which is counterintuitive when you think of the amount of energy that it takes to actually exercise to an extreme level. So that has by far been a key thing.
A couple of the things that I'm hearing from you is that recharge the battery is still a work in progress.
Yeah.
Exercise.
I would say with recharging the battery, it's I actually feel like I do a really good job with it.
Yeah.
I feel I do a good job of staying involved with my kids, helping them with homework, doing their sports. Ashley and I have a wonderful relationship of dating. While we've been married for 21 years, and we love time that we get to spend with each other. So I've found the right, I know when I need to be selfish, and I'm selfish to make sure
You're
that
good.
my cup is
Yeah.
full and I'm in a good position, and then I can go out on other things. I see that I'll let other things maybe suffer a little bit if I need to make sure that I'm in a good spot.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's probably what gives you the capacity to try so many of these things is
Yeah.
knowing how to dial that in and keep your own cup full.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned and that we explore in a little bit more depth in the course is you said, hey, I need to be selective in what I'm showing up and doing
Mm-hmm.
so that it's like the most effective and efficient use of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you lean into your strengths in knowing like what are those things? How do you lean into the part that makes you uniquely Ezra, that adds value, and don't get caught up in doing the things that other people could do?
Oh man, I'd say that that's taken me 15 years, and I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
As a business owner, the difference when I learned the difference between delegating and relinquishing was like a major breakthrough for me. To understand that if I'm delegating this is going to come back with me. But if I clearly relinquish it and it is no longer anything that I'm going to be touching going forward, then it gives me the freedom to then spend time where I want to be and release that from anything that's under my management. And I would say that that's a constant daily thing. I think I do well at it now. I'm not perfect with it. I would say that that's like one of the major things that I still need to focus on, especially as a bunch of new things are coming up, making sure that I have the right touch on it and then have the right people in place to help manage those going forward.
And what would you say, how do you identify when you're ready to let go versus it still needs that Ezra touch?
I would say based on what the item is. If the item is in something that takes ideation or invention, or something that takes creativity, something that takes this isn't developed yet. It needs a personality.
Yeah.
That's where I stay involved to create the personality, to create what this is going to be. But then once it's something, that's when I let it go. Once it has, the DNA of what it needs to be, I'm not the guy that carries that tenacity of wanting to see every little T crossed and I dotted and check all the boxes. That's not me. I like to create the ideas and get it going. So if it falls in, depending on which camp that it falls in, if it's on the ideation side, that it's still on my plate and I'll work with it until it gets to a good point.
Yeah. Well, I love that in your working genius, because ideation, invention, and discernment are actually your two biggest strengths, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep.
And so,
which I was surprised that Wonder wasn't.
Yeah.
And then when I went back and read Wonder, it was like, but Wonder is I think my third.
Yeah.
Which made sense to me, because I also am like, yeah, I'm not that person that likes to just think big and, just throw out big questions and not do much with them. I like to really think through, does this have opportunity? I do enjoy it. Yeah. I enjoy it, but I also want to make sure that it, does it have a purpose? Is it feasible? Is it this really seem like there's that piece of me too that wants to make sure that I'm not just floating up there in the clouds and just to, look around, but to actually go, okay, here's a great idea. Now let's run with it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like about that is wonder, discernment, and some of these other ones are observant energies, and ideation is actually an active energy. And so it actually creates information versus observing what's happening and choosing how to act on it. And so to see you kind of in your zone when you're creating on the fly, this is just active creation. And then just what I've witnessed from you is you kind of know. You're like, okay, we now found it.
Yeah.
You guys can run with it.
Yep.
And as someone that's not great at the details either myself, when I try to stay involved too much beyond that, it totally starts to drain mine and the team's energy.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still writing that novel, 3,000 pages in 6 years. And at some point the publisher's got to just say, you got to be done with it. Yep. That's where it's hard for me to stay involved too long, or it becomes too much. There's too many iterations, but it's hard in the world of design and creation to know the deadlines are a true necessary evil.
Yep.
You just got to call it a day, folks, and let's move on.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Well, I think, I love that. I mean, the question that just comes to mind, and when it's all said and done, one of the things we explore is the legacy you've been given and the legacy you'd like to live and leave. And so I'd love to I feel like we've already addressed that to some degree with how you want to raise your boys, right? But when you think of the legacy that you've been given, and when it's all said and done, what's said about Ezra, like, what are the things that stand out to you in those areas?
That's easy because the takeaway was from this course, and it was give versus get. And when I look at relationships and I approach a situation or scenario, am I going into it with a giving mindset or a getting mindset? And it's embarrassing a little, it's a little bit like to understand, like when I really like work that through in my emotions and think about how I act on a daily basis, like I was 100% showing up in almost every situation that I could think of in getting, like, what am I getting out of this? And I do think that I'm a fair individual. I think I'm a very fair individual. So I'd want it to be like mutually beneficial in the getting. You're getting something, I'm getting something. But as I really like thought that through and broke it down, I realized that since then, which has been a few weeks now, since I've gone into situations, I'll set in the trigger like, hey, this is gonna be something new that I'm doing. And if I think through, okay, what am I able to give in this? And if I stay in that giving mindset, it's really been amazing what that has done in the energy in the situation, in all sorts, whether it's a business meeting or it's like with my boys or with whatever. But I'll tell you what, helping Sawyer with his homework, thinking of giving and not what am I getting out of this, has been like life-changing because I know that it's like my role is just to give. Legitimately, it's embarrassing for me to think of that as a 44-year-old man. It's like I'm just learning this now, that I need to show up and to just genuinely give. That's been great. It's been really great. But if I think of a legacy, I think, like we touched on, the 80-year-old version of myself is just saying, keep going. And maybe even do it with a little bit more flair, like just this little tone of encouragement even, like hit the gas maybe even a little bit more. So I feel like I'm really on the right path, but that little piece in the legacy of giving, the give back has always been something that I've kind of been like, where do I fit in on that? Like I give back where I can financially on things and, with opportunities with a lot of different people. But when that landed and really understood that it's giving, showing up in a situation, what am I able to give in this situation on a daily basis, I think is a massive course correction for me on developing a legacy that I'll be truly proud of, that I'm excited about.
Yeah. I felt like there was something that came up for you that maybe you didn't share. Is that true? No?
I shared it good, man.
Okay. There was a moment there where I'm like, okay, was there something that you held back on? I think that was beautiful what you just shared, but was there anything else that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I feel good.
Hey, that's my job to double check on that stuff.
Thank you for challenging me.
And thank you for that. That's actually beautiful. In my experience, one of the most challenging relationships to shift from a getting to a giving relationship is in my marriage and with my parents. And like you, in the moments of awareness, I regularly feel like, how did I not see this? Right?
Yeah.
Like I was like 37 when I realized you put on conditioner after shampoo. My wife, because I'm bathing one of our daughters, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, because I'm doing it in the backwards order. She's like, that'll take all the conditioner out. I'm like, well, I didn't know that. I'm 37 years old, But I don't know. I guess maybe that's what I was asking for. When that feeling of like, oh, like I can't believe I didn't quite get this. Was that showing up for you anywhere specific? And maybe that's what I was asking. That is maybe a little more painful, or where you're more hyper aware of, I'd like to show up more with a giving mindset than a getting mindset.
I mean, I would say that maybe with my boys, and I think I kind of mentioned it there where it is, but I do feel like the amount of time that I've spent coaching my boys and spending with them, I think I've done a great job. But I do feel like I've approached those in the past where I've done the work and I've done well with it. But what was I doing it for? And was it for me to be getting something back out of that father-son relationship? Or was it for me just genuinely giving of my time to make sure they're having a wonderful experience in the sports? And that's where it's like, I'd like to think a little bit of both, to be fair to myself in the past and leading up to this moment. But I do think that it's been pivotal for me to think like, well, I have definitely been approaching these relationships in the wrong way, in the selfish way of just getting as opposed to like, where can I be giving? And I do feel like I'm in a situation, just all things considered, that now I have a strong foundation and I can go into relationships and situations to have a strong platform to give from. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I did think of one thing where I was going and I forgot.
Let's
Want me to share that?
Yeah.
With my brother-in-law that's teaching me to be a sailor. And he just so open to risk. So it gets me on the sailboat and I'm doing my thing as a captain on the sailboat and getting into so many situations where I'm like, what have I done? How did I get myself here? And I got my young family here and like, what are we going to be doing? Facing that fear and that challenge, which is so real and so scary, to then experience that and then come back to business and then deal with tough situations, it has really put in a wonderful way, like what I thought of as this is insanely scary and challenging to what really is scary and challenging has done wonderful things for me. Because it's like, if my family's not in danger and this could be something difficult that we're going to run through in business, I can do that because of what I have done as a captain of a sailboat.
Yes.
Has like given me such thick skin that I have loved tapping that in times of need when I'm going into difficult situations. Just go, nobody's going to die. So we're going to be just fine.
Yes. Sometimes we tend to make mountains out of molehills, I guess you could say sometimes. But that is real perspective, because we live in a pretty comfortable little culture society here. And it isn't until you recognize the contrast of like, oh, this is what's really going on. I can work through this.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think one thing I did want to just come back to for a moment is, you mentioned when it comes to getting versus giving, and I've been doing it wrong, but now I know how to do it right. And I always just love to challenge people on that, because until you're aware, is it even possible to do anything wrong?
No.
Right? Like it's, because now you know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that's why I like to challenge throughout the course, and even when we have these chats and look how far you've come with that. Like, and you know what that feels like, and now you know what giving feels like. And now you are making a choice around that, right? There is no choice if there's no awareness.
Yeah.
And we become aware of things when we're ready to be authentic and step into them.
Yeah.
And so that's where I do think that it can be easy to like beat ourselves up about, how did I not see this before? But that's just a thought.
Yeah.
It's like, well, because I didn't see it before.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I know.
Yep.
And now I know it would be inauthentic to keep showing up consistently with a getting mindset versus a giving mindset.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
So, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, what would you, I've got a couple of wrap-up questions, but before I do that, I guess I would just ask, was there anything else that stood out to you in the course that you wanted to talk about that we haven't? For someone that's considering something like Disruptive University and the Authenticity Wins course, what would you counsel them to consider to know if it was a good fit or if they'd get the value they wanted out of it?
If they feel a little lost in who they are and what they should be focusing on in life, then I would highly recommend it. I think it does a great job of giving us the ability to introspect in all areas of life, personal, business, and truly evaluate how we're showing up. And then honestly look at ourselves and say, is that how we want to continue to show up? And if we're not happy with the version of ourselves that is showing up in the different areas of our life, then I think DU is a wonderful course for people to go through.
Yeah. And so far, we've just gone through the personal track. Because in Disruptive, we start with personal clarity, then relationship clarity, and then business clarity. And so even just in exploring personal clarity for yourself, have you seen that drive any impact for your business and how that's going?
Yes. I would say my role is to carry the vision for all the companies. And the more clarity I have in my role, the better I'm able to articulate that vision to the rest of my team, which gives them better direction so that they can more efficiently work forward into the future, which has been very helpful.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm very excited to go through the next two sections with you as well, because I think without a vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
Starting with ourselves and having something that we look forward to, that we're excited to build, to create, not because then we'll be happy, but for just the sheer joy of getting after it and going for it anyway, you know? Like that's when life feels rich and full, and even the hard things feel doable. So
I just hope everybody's ready to see my vision, because it's not a painted picture. My vision is a continuous rolling film. So it's always changing.
Yep.
And
that's,
I'm
and
always
that's the good news.
adding narrative and characters and destinations to the journey. So
That's awesome.
it's probably not a good thing, with people wanting to have like a good vision that they can just lock into and push towards. But I would say that that's been my challenge, is like getting to that vision and then like locking it in. So I'm excited to go through that course.
Yeah. Well, I think there's actually space for both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great. I'm sure glad that gets to evolve for me over time. Otherwise, I think eventually we get back into that complacent zone and feel itchy to go on the next adventure. So cool. Okay. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
This is great.
Thank you.
Yeah.